Welcome to the ACC Panic Room alongside Lauren Brownlow. I'm Joe Ovies at PNC Arena, where, Lauren, 2023 has been a really, really weird year already. I've been to two games at NC State where they beat Duke and they beat Carolina and not a single court storm. Kind of an odd year, right?
Well, Carolina's not even ranked.
I know. I think it kind of illustrates the kind of year that's been happening in the ACC. And also a general kind of attitude shift that I've seen, at least with this NC State squad, that finds ways to bounce back, that has a particular buy-in. They might not get too down on themselves either within a game or from game to game. They can have a disappointing result at Syracuse, come back against a rival, think about what happened in Chapel Hill, have the fun with the sunglasses and all that stuff after the fact to prove a point. And they got the very intense win here late at PNC Arena.
Yeah, they made plays down the stretch. I mean, it was a close game. I wouldn't call it a good one throughout most of it. It was kind of herky-jerky. No. I don't know that anybody would have a lot of complaints about any of the officiating, so that was nice to see, except for that one really long review that for whatever reason the best – it was really funny to see people at the game be like, is there a better camera angle at home than, the Bigfoot footage we have? No, there's not. There's not. That's actually from the convenience store surveillance cam footage we had of the Pete. Regardless, I don't think much seemed to happen there. They dissected it as best they could on the broadcast, and they were like, seems like nothing really happened, but it was ridiculous.
I haven't seen video that grainy since my iPhone 4 on a Zoom. So it
harkened back to the days of the old cell phones for sure. I still have old cell phone videos floating around out there somewhere that look probably about like that and that are about as useful as that video. So, but I mean, other than that, and kudos to them because they took a while to make sure nothing happened as best they could.
Yeah.
And I think from what I could tell, these refs seemed to nip anything in the bud before anything got contentious. Nothing did. The players were fine.
They did a lot of explaining
out like today. Adults. It seemed to go fine. And
they did a lot of explaining today. There was some explaining after what was a flop. There was explaining after what was clearly a foul on Caleb Love on a 3, which they didn't call. And then he complained because he had been complaining a good bit of some of the non-calls there. And that's fine. I get the frustration boils over. But he embellished so much on the floor after that 3 that they went ahead and they teed him up for his act. So they did a lot, to your point, to kind of keep this thing, on its wheels, on its axis going forward. And I guess that's kind of the thing. They'll get back to NC State and kind of staying on its axis. And it's the group, it's the players, and it's Kevin Keatts. I don't think Kevin Keatts necessarily has changed the coach. I think he was able to pull in some guys that are buying into what he's doing. He used buy-in a lot in the postgame. And the one thing about this group, as I saw DJ Burns, walking off the court and getting hype with the students, I mentioned the sunglasses. Even Kevin Keatts, and I get it's easier to be in this kind of mood when you've won 21 times and you just beat North Carolina in this building, and emphatically there down the stretch. I forgot who it was that asked him a question about, this being a rivalry win or whatever. And he was clearly in his, expletive, grinning self, all in on the, I don't value one
what rivalry?
Or the other.
What?
They're all good wins. I care about the wins. I mean, and besides, I was told it's not a rivalry. I'm paraphrasing here, but it's just it's not a rivalry. So what do I care, right? Perfectly. Right. And then, of course, with all the sunglasses. Oh, they really wore the sunglasses after the game? Huh. How about that? So clearly, State, and it's something that you and I have talked about consistently this season between State and Duke. Duke's got its identity. It's a little bit more workmanlike, so to speak. I know it's like a cliche to say, but they kind of understand their roles. NC State understands that all these guys understand their roles too. They play really, really well together. Even in moments where it's a little too ISO for me, there were times where Terquavion Smith and Jarkel Joyner were just kind of doing offense on their own, but they got out of that rut. Right. And they're clearly having fun.
And those are the types of guys that thrive in those types of situations. And it's sort of like when Caleb Love was feeling himself last year, you kind of have to let some of the ISO stuff go because that's just kind of his game. Those two, it feels like if the degree of difficulty on Joyner's shots are high enough, it's like they're likelier to go in at a certain point. It starts to feel like.
Carolina, and I've said this plenty of times, when I watch Carolina play, this looks like a group that doesn't enjoy playing basketball. I cannot get in their head. I can't get in their head. I don't know what they're feeling, but I know Armando Bacot is clearly not happy with these results. He's frustrated with the lack of pivoting or the changes or the attitude changes. After the Miami loss, he talked about, I am 100% worried about making the NCAA tournament. And they come out here and they play the exact same kind of game where Caleb Love is making passes that make you go, why did you do that? His shot selection, again, why are you doing that?
Also, I've said this, maybe don't complain to the ref. You get more flies with honey. I mean, I know you're caught up in the moment. I know, but tell me okay, you can say it was because of the flop. Tell me he didn't get it because he complained. He got it because he complained.
No, he got it because he complained. No, I totally get with you on that. And Pete Nance, bless him, like the guy was asked to do a lot in replacing Brady Manick. We know that's not the case, but even today it was like, and he had some moments here and there, but DJ Burns made his life miserable multiple times today. Even Armando Bacot was on the receiving end of some of DJ Burns' move to the basket. It was kind of like, did you ever play double dribble on the Nintendo back in the day?
Forever ago, maybe.
So you play double dribble, there's a corner three. It's like a glitch in the game. So you go all the way, you run all the way into the corner, and then you heave a shot from the corner, and it always goes in. It's like automatic, right?
Well,
that was DJ Burns. Like, I'm sitting right in front of where DJ Burns is basically.
It's the highest value shot in basketball, apparently, because it's the highest percentage three-pointer. And so, obviously, because it's a three.
Sure.
Like, to get an open corner three.
Yes.
The analytics people.
But that's DJ Burns. But that's DJ Burns every time he's here, like literally right in front, going into the lane. And the crowd just starts getting hyped up, and he's going to hit a floater. Sometimes he's behind the basket and getting it in, to bounce off the rim just right. So he's had a truly blessed season. After the game, though, I don't know if you caught any of Hubert Davis's post-game press conference, though, Lauren. I can sit here and watch this Tar Heel squad and go, there's going to be a moment where it all folds up. Like the moment gets you and you just don't know what to do next, right? And I've seen it multiple times this season. And they're running out of time. They're literally running out of opportunities. They're 0-10 in quad one opportunities. Joe Lunardi, I know for the home audience, they were going on and on and on about how he spent like half the first half talking about Carolina's NCAA tournament chances. They got two more of these opportunities left against a Virginia squad that they historically do not play well against in Tony Bennett. And then they got their final home game against Duke. They could win one of these games and I guess find themselves in a situation where they go to Greensboro for the ACC tournament.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to play on Friday night. But they're running out of opportunities. And I don't understand Hubert Davis's almost detached optimism about what this team is doing and how he feels they can close out.
I mean, I think in his mind, that's probably all that works with this group or whatever. I mean, we've seen him try kind of different things along the way, like different tactics to try to fire them up. And I think, like, at a certain point, what else can you do? Like, I mean, you look at them and, you know, I've seen people talking about it too. You and I have talked about the 3-point shooting and whatever. But at the same time, this was a team that shot 7 percentage points higher last year in ACC play. It's only getting worse lately, not better. They're 3-point shooting. And I know losing Manick hurts a lot, but like, some of these people are the same guys that got the shots last year, and they're just not making them. And I think sometimes basketball can be kind of simple-ish in that way, where if you can't make 3-pointers, like as a team, right? Just in general, I'm not saying they're always getting the best looks or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like if you can't make them, you're not going to win a lot of college basketball games unless you do something else really well, and Carolina just doesn't.
Well, here's the problem with that. I understand what you're saying about, and it's the old Roy Williams, the game's a lot better when the ball goes in the basket. I get all that. I get all those cliches.
Gotta make shots.
The problem is we have enough of a sample size with this particular group to understand that they weren't all that great of a 3-point shooting team to begin with. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, so, and I tweeted this out. I'll go back to Al Hood at Tar Heel Blog wrote something this week in more of a long-form fashion than what I had kind of tweeted and talked about on the air. We have enough of a sample size of this big three, Armando Bacot, RJ Davis, Caleb Love, to understand that this is a very particular group. It's a peculiar group that has run hot, as we saw last year, as they went all the way to the final and lost to Kansas. But they can also get like the giant sucking sound you hear when they start to really get tight. And they essentially give games back to their opponents when they have opportunities to take it. Today's a prime example. With about 8 minutes to go,
They're up
had
6.
I had a tweet ready to go. They're hitting threes. They're up 6. State's kind of, overheated. They're trying to do too much. And I'm going, yep, UNC's wrapping this up. Same as it ever was. It doesn't really matter. And I know we've talked about this. I've seen worse Carolina squads sweep this NC State program. I mean, I remember you got mad at me back in 2020 in the lost Cole Anthony season when I said, watch State get swept by this group. And you're like, that will never happen. What happened? They ended up getting swept. So I've seen some things, Lauren. You've seen some things. So we kind of know how this plays out. And I thought that's how it was going to play out this afternoon at PNC Arena. And instead, I did not. I trusted history over the moment, the macro versus the micro, right? I trusted that North Carolina and their historic nature against NC State would find some sort of way to win. Instead, North Carolina did what they've been doing all season long and give the other team a wide open door to go and take it. And we saw that in the 8-minute mark.
In a way, I think it's like a microcosm too of their season, though. Like you probably did think they go up by 6 with 8 minutes to go, and they're on a run and they're getting hot and they're confident. And you look around and go, yeah, well, of course they're going to pull this out because that's what good teams do, right? That's what we saw them do last year. Eventually. It's what we have not seen them. And that's the thing this year, like for the most part, they get in situations. I mean, I saw Carolina fans tweeting about it as it was happening, literally. Like they were like, ugh, the State's got us right where they want us, the 6-point lead late in the game. Like, and that's the thing. And they knew it was coming. Like it's almost like they get that lead and they're like, all right, cool. We did what we needed to do. All right, we've taken care of our business. And it's like, no, like you have to actually keep doing the thing that you were doing, and State's the one that stepped up and made plays, and then Carolina ran around like a chicken with its head cut off. Kind of.
It was wild to see.
P.S. Huber called timeout, didn't hear everything.
It was wild. It was wild to watch it just kind of implode on itself as NC State fed off the crowd. That was a little bit sleepier in the first half because I think some people were still hung over from the Stadium Series game last night. It was a decent crowd, but it really came alive in that final moment. And again, you could see Carolina implode. And I know we've seen enough of Carolina this year that I find, I'll go back to what I said earlier about Hubert Davis. Sometimes, and you and I know this, and I was talking with some people about this in the post game, Luke DeCock and Brendan Marks and Andrew Carter. It's like, we all agree, and you agree, we've been to enough press conferences where we know the coaches are not telling us what they're probably talking to with the team, right?
Yeah.
We see that enough times. And in a moment like this, where the season's literally slipping away, where Carolina needed this win against NC State way more than NC State needed the win against Carolina in terms of NCAA purposes. Now, Gilio and I talked about it earlier this week in terms of like the who needs it more. I'll get back to that micro, macro. On the micro, yes, Carolina needed this game more for obvious Q1 opportunities. Right. But on the macro, if you feel that you're better than Carolina,
this is the time to prove it.
This is the time to prove it. It gets back to what I've said in the past. NC State has had times to prove it, and they've fallen flat. So if you're really about that life, as the kids like to say, well, you'll go out there and lay the hammer down on Carolina. You'll flex on them. And that's exactly what they did. They did it later. They did flex on them, but it finally happened. So it gets back to my central premise about Hubert, and I'll go back to that Al Hood piece on Tar Heel blog that I have meandered my way into. Whatever, it's freeform jazz in the Panic Room sometimes, folks. That I'm at the point now where hit the reset button. Clean, like just last year was maxed out. You'll always have last year. You'll always have those memories. And sometimes groups will come back, and it wasn't the best idea to all come back, okay? Last year was your year. This year was pushing it too much. Now let's see what Hubert Davis can do with his group, not a group that, while he recruited, they're clearly coming to play for Roy Williams, a group that Roy Williams probably got more silver hair from than any other previous team that eventually retired. And for the most part, up until February 16th of last year, was largely the same group that we've seen this year. So I'm really curious to see, and I hope that fans, I think for the most part, fans understand this. The reaction in a loss like this on social media gets a little too overheated. I think for the most part, people are still in a little bit of a wait and see to see what happens with Hubert Davis getting his guys.
Right.
But that doesn't do anything about this year.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think people are in like a wait and see mode, not so much for next year, or not so much for this year, but for next year. It's more just like they make the tournament, they don't make the tournament, whatever at this point. But let's just see, like, how things go next year, and maybe they have like an actual normal-ish year of college basketball for them, because it's been anything but kind of in the last 3 years with them. It's been all over the place, and it'll be interesting. Now, I wasn't in that building, so I'll have to take your word for this. But I can tell you, like, on TV, it didn't seem to me, maybe it was because of, like you said, like Stadium Series, whatever, didn't seem to me like nearly as angry of a crowd as I thought it was going to be. No. Usually there's hostility from the jump, like, and it's you can feel the venom in the air, and I didn't feel that. And if anything, down the stretch, like, all I felt was like just this joy for their team. And I thought that was, I can't remember the last time, I feel like, even when they've beaten Carolina in that building, I honestly don't know, like, the last time I have felt that. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense, but you know what I'm talking about.
No,
right?
I know exactly what we're talking about.
It's almost like it's beyond an FU moment for State fans. This is like their genuine joy for this team. And I thought that was really cool.
I'm glad you brought that up, because to your point, yes, I felt that the first half was a byproduct of some sleepiness. Hell, I'm sleepy, okay? I was at the Stadium Series game last night. It was a hell of a lot of fun. I got back late. My kid had a hockey game that we had to be at the rink at 7 o'clock in the morning. Like, it's been a day, okay?
I saw Magic Mike Part 2 at a crowded movie theater, so.
Oh, you saw some things last night, Brown.
I saw some things, but go on.
So I think there was a little bit of sleepiness. But to your point about the joy of the win, rather than what some people thought was going to be this really nasty, stick it to UNC type thing after what had happened in Chapel Hill with Terquavion Smith and everything else, and all the talk of free throw differentials, everything else. Yeah. I think the fan base or the crowd here has taken on the personality of the team, which is good. It's great. You see this very often. So they feed off of the excitement of watching DJ Burns play.
And you can still hear the noise they make when he gets the ball in the low post. And it's just like, it's like seeing a puppy for me to hear that sound. And I need that in my life. So, like, thank you guys. Like, thank you all for that. Because I hear it. It's like this anticipation of, like, yes, he's got
the ball.
Right where
you're exactly right. Watching Terquavion Smith play is fun.
It's fun. They're the fun team.
They're the fun team. And I would make the argument that I don't even know if Carolina was winning if they'd be fun. I really don't.
No.
I really don't. And that really comes through. And I don't want to like get into like all vibes and feelings here, but that matters. That matters when you play sports. It matters as a team dynamic. And I don't know what this group is like off the court. I don't care what this group is like off the court. They might be all chummy. I don't know. I don't care. I'm nearly 44 years old. I don't really care what college kids do. However, when you watch them on the court, okay, you can tell if you enjoy doing something with somebody else. It's no different than, I enjoy doing radio with Giglio. I enjoy doing radio with Gold. But I can tell radio hosts who don't enjoy doing shows with other people, that comes through, whether you realize it or not. So I enjoy doing Panic Room with you, Brownlow. But for the Tar Heels, they don't look like they're enjoying basketball. And I maintain that I'm not even sure that they would look like they really enjoyed it if they were on the right side of the NCAA tournament bubble.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know either. I haven't seen a whole lot of that this season. And you know what? I'll say this too. We've talked about it, but it's true. Like, by the time they were on their run last year, like, they were a fun group to be around.
They were
making jokes all the time. Yep. Like, just constantly. They were super fun to be around. Mm-hmm. And it's obviously things are a lot more fun when you're winning. And I get that.
When the pressure isn't on you, too. You got to remember the dynamics of last year where they were able to go.
Duke and Carolina both are dealing with that to a degree. I mean, like, let's be real. They're the Blue Bloods. They're, having a worse than expected season. They're not ranked. They've got new coaches. And they are dealing with a lot of that, too. And it's kind of a different level of burden, I know.
Any other takeaways from today's game, Brownlow, before we get out of here?
No, I just was I was glad for how positive it all felt in the end. To be honest, I know that sounds like whatever, but you don't
positive vibes only.
After one of these, you guys made State fans. You made my heart feel warm and fuzzy with how happy you guys were. I could hear it. I could hear the catharsis in there and like the joy. It was just nice. It was nice to hear. And it made me, and I have to take my like small moments of joy. Listen, I got to take them where I can get them right now.
Okay.
So.
Whether it's seeing Magic Mike or this. So come on, Brownlow, what's sexier? when DJ Burns gets the ball in the low post, or anything you saw on Magic Mike?
I'm still going to take the DJ Burns thing just because the Magic Mike movie feels like it was made by like an AI. It just
kind of like my country song. AI chatbot.
A little less creepy, like less less weird, but yeah.
Fair enough. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the ACC Panic Room. Next week, I'm going to attempt to go to 4 sporting events in a single day.
Okay.
Yeah, well, because State plays in the afternoon, and then you got Duke and Carolina in the evening, and the Wolfpack are playing. Or I'm sorry, the Canes are playing a hockey game at 7. That's 4. I'm gonna try to get to all 4.
Wow.
It's better than the time you and I went to 2 basketball games in a day.
I mean, I've done 2. I've done 3.
Yeah.
3's been my most, and that takes a lot out of you. So
we'll see what happens. All right, we'll see you all next week at the Panic Room.